Okay, let's make sure it's synced up. Wally, you ready to do this recording? All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to MMA Island. I'm one of your co-hosts, Slick Diaz. I'm joined by Zach Harkness, the main man on the mission. I don't know why I said that, but we're here to give you the weekly news briefing of, in case you missed it, stuff in the world of MMA. This is the current on MMA Island 121-22 edition. Before we hop into the actual octagon cage and get the news that we have on the docket, is there anything outside of the UFC that we need to know about Mr. Harkness?
Well, one first strike, which was a lot of people were very excited for it, is a featherweight kickboxing Grand Prix. And the first round had advanced. The second round was about to start. But mysteriously, the favorite for this competition, a kickboxer by the name of Marat Grigorian, top
The
10
favorite
pound
for
for
the entire tournament?
Yes. A top 10 pound for pound kickboxer on the planet has been removed from all promotional materials, and they are not even making a statement. They're just advertising the second round of the tournament without Grigorian there, even though he scored a vicious knockout to advance. So it's really weird that we don't know what happened. Right now it looks like he's just not going to compete. But they just disappeared. They didn't make a statement. It's really odd.
Okay. And do you want to give us that name one more time, just clearly, so we can keep that in our mental notes?
Marat Grigorian from Armenia.
Great. All right. What else is brimming to the surface outside the UFC? I know we got a few more things before we get into what we got on the documents.
If you remember, fan favorite, just because of how much of a great guy he is, and on the receiving end of one of the worst KOs, best KOs ever, but to be knocked out, probably one of the worst. Impa Kasanganay is one of the recent kind of high-profile fighters to sign with Khabib's Eagle Fighting Championship, which made headways. Their first event in the States is happening soon with Rashad Evans, a bunch of familiar names.
Oh, yeah.
But he is signed with them, and he will debut in March.
Okay. That's really exciting. There's one more I think you had?
Yes, and ACA, the top promotion in Russia, is looking to host a lightweight tournament. Some of the names they've been talking about that some of the more hardcore Russian fans will know are Edward Vartanian and Ali Bagov. And for the rest of you all who aren't really privy to the Russian scene, they are also in talks with Anthony Pettis to compete in this tournament.
Wait, okay, so can you give us a little info on what, just tangentially before we dive in, since you brought up Anthony Pettis and he's going to be maybe competing in this promotion, can you tell us a little bit about his promotion and what am I missing? I feel like I don't have a piece of information that I need. What's going on? What's it called? When's it happening?
Showtime Fighting Championship. It's happening in Florida, I think next month for their first event.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right. So as far as UFC news that this week's Tide brought in, the UFC announces an exclusive NFT project to launch Sunday. The Ultimate Fighting Championship is releasing a novelty class NFT collection on Sunday, January 23rd. In the UFC 270 press conference, it was announced that Francis Ngannou is one of the brand ambassadors. Dapper Labs has teamed up with other major sports promotions, and they've teamed up with the UFC to launch UFC Strike. What do we think about that, my friend?
Dislike heavily. But I'm not a fan of NFTs, so my opinion is not going to be unbiased. I think it's dumb. I think it's gimmicky. I think it's just another way to get money. Yes, 50% of NFT revenues are going to the fighters. How about 50% of total revenue, not just NFT sales?
Valid points, yep. Hey, try to center yourself on the camera a little bit, buddy.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I just am not a fan of NFTs in any sense of the word, so I'm not going to be the most positive towards this announcement. But it doesn't surprise me that they're getting into this endeavor with how much Dana has seemed to be a fan of cryptocurrency and NFTs.
Yep. Well, I mean, you don't always have to be a fan of the news. I think that's why we want to bring the news every week and then cover it a little bit, is so we get perspectives and think about different ways to think about thinking about things, you know? So, you don't always have to be partial to the topic. Just let us know what's on your mind. Okay. So, in other news, Francis Ngannou partners with Cash App for a Bitcoin giveaway. Ngannou says that he's teaming up with Cash App and giving out $300,000 in Bitcoin to his fans. Now UFC fans all over the world have a chance to be one of the recipients that's selected for this giveaway with Francis Ngannou. He is also set to take half of his purse earnings for UFC 270 in Bitcoin. So he's stepping into the octagon to defend his heavyweight title for the first time, but man, we're kind of stepping into the future. I know in other, like the MLB and NFL and NBA, there's a lot of really famous athletes that have taken portions of their pay in cryptocurrency before, but I feel like this is probably the biggest profile version of that we've seen in the MMA world. What are we thinking?
Yeah, and this giveaway is something that Cash App does. Recently, Klay Thompson and Draymond Green did the same thing. Usually, recipients get about $10 each of Bitcoin. And if you're wondering, hey, the UFC has a crypto sponsor, Crypto.com. Why aren't they doing it through that? Well, my friends, it's because the fighters actually don't get a cut of that sponsorship. Not at all. And this wonderful company that the UFC sponsors recently hacked, and millions of dollars of people's assets were stolen. And so, you know, when you see the fighters walk out to the cage with Crypto.com slattered on their chest, just give that a thought, that they are actually not getting paid to do so. No, not at all. But good for Francis.
Tough times for fighter compensation, man. It's like even when we're making steps towards like potential for that realm of problem, it's still not really making any progress in terms of like viable, like, you know, tangible solutions.
So good for Cash App. Good for Cash App for being a good company, unlike as far as I know, unlike Crypto.com. And, you know, actually working with the athletes of the UFC, who are the important ones, and not just putting money in the executive pockets. So Crypto.com, it's going to be awkward for fighters to wear that on their shirts this weekend, because their hack was very well publicized. So not the best time to be advertising said company.
You think John Anik will bring it up? No way, right?
He might, and it'll be hilarious. I will laugh.
That'd be risky. All right. In less serious news, Brian Kelleher, after his win over Kevin Kroom this last weekend at the UFC's first event of 2022, challenged Bryce Mitchell to a rap battle live on Ariel Helwani's MMA Hour. We don't got to dive into this one, but I just want to know, Zach, who you got in the rap battle?
They both lose to Halik Gracie. Have you ever heard G and a Gee?
Yes, yeah. Okay. Solid answer. Okay. One more thing on that. Maybe there could be, if it's an Ariel Helwani promoted event, maybe there will be a belt on the line. Who knows? Ariel Helwani gave Stephen Thompson a belt of his own, the NMF belt. So, you know, it's kind of a stretch, but maybe that could happen. Maybe one of those young bar spitters will get some gold or silver
It's
or
just
copper
funny that
or something.
the battle for a rap battle belt will happen between Brian Kelleher and Bryce Mitchell. You wouldn't really
What a world, right?
What a world.
Khamzat Chimaev wants to go to Brazil and choke Gilbert Burns out.
That's not the most impressive Khamzat news. He is training at Tiger Muay Thai.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
He is in Phuket, Thailand at Tiger Muay Thai, which is kind of regarded, at least among some circles, as the best gym in the world. So many amazing fighters train there. If you look at the paragon of MMA success, Piotr Jan, he's trained there. Volkanovski has trained there. Jose Aldo has trained there. Just everyone who's Brad Riddell, Rafael Fiziev, just all these amazing fighters have trained there. And you bring in Khamzat Chimaev to learn some Muay Thai. And also, people think of Tiger and think of it mainly as a striking gym, but do not underrate their grappling. all these Tiger fighters are great grapplers too. And those Sotogar trips that they taught Piotr Jan, if because we know if we get Hamzat Chimaev some of that clinch wrestling, good God, if he, this is a terrifying, terrifying revelation for UFC welterweights. This is just like if you're a top contender and you see that, that is just the worst thing you could possibly see. Hamzat at Tiger is just going to be a different beast. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was already over. Now it's really over. They sent Hamzat to Tiger Muay Thai. Everyone is bleeped.
Yes.
Oh no! I accidentally turned on low power mode. Okay, let's get into
Gilbert,
this. So
good luck, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. So Hamzat and Gilbert are, circling the rumor mill for a matchup in Rio later this year on the UFC's return to Brazil. Further on that note, there are also talks of Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira in Brazil. Nothing's official. This is strictly the rumor mill, but it makes sense. It makes sense. We've been hoping for that matchup to get booked for a while. Now it has, now the talks are starting up. So I know that's one of your favorite fighters, one of my favorite fighters. So I figured we'd talk about it for a second.
Charles is my favorite fighter, and it'll be the first time he's fought in Brazil since November 2019. That'll be the first time. Yeah.
Wow.
He fought on the, I think he might have been the feature prelim or on the early main card of the Jacare Blachowicz card, in which he knocked out Jared Gordon.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's a nice little transition into this next headline. Dana White on Barstool Sports's Dave Portnoy show, he confirmed Pimblett versus Gordon, and then a different opponent was announced. So the UFC president identified Jared Gordon as the Barstool's new brand ambassador's next opponent. In case you missed that, Paddy Pimblett is the lone MMA brand ambassador for Barstool Sports, which is a huge deal. But so Dana announced that fight on air, and the Barstool staff rejoiced, exclaiming, "That's breaking news!" And it was a humorous development when a day or two later, the UFC announced Pimblett versus Vargas, Kazula Vargas, for UFC London. I'm assuming that will be probably the third. That'll probably be the co-main, huh? In London,
Probably.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, Paddy doesn't even claim that he's from England, so why should he care? But yeah, he claims other people can't rep their flag, even though he doesn't. He wants to be represented as a Scouse from Liverpool. Doesn't claim England, so I doubt he cares.
Yeah. Well, England will definitely care, and I'm sure that his slot on the card will be carefully selected.
Oh, very much.
Also, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm disappointed it's not Jared Gordon, because Jared Gordon, I think, has a good chance of beating him. Vargas, not so much. I want to see that guy lose.
To further elaborate on UFC London, Tom Aspinall and Alexander Volkov are set to headline with a heavyweight scrap at UFC London. Despite winning a slow build for his UFC career and the ascent in it, Tom Aspinall has been inserted into a very big spot atop the UFC's return to England. Slotted against the ever-dangerous Alexander Volkov, it looks like Aspinall is about to be off to the races. Aspinall is only 28. He's gone undefeated in the UFC, but now Drago is going to be a big test in every way you could mean that word, big. What do we think about that? We talked about it a little earlier, so just more than news, less of a prediction.
I know why they're doing it, because they're looking at it this weekend, and the top of heavyweight, besides Gane, has been stagnant for a long time. It's just been Stipe, Blades, Ngannou, Derek Lewis, and Volkov. There's no fresh blood. Cyril Gane's the first fresh blood in a long time. And so they're trying to speed run Aspinall up there so they can have a convincing fight for whoever is champion. Because Francis has already beaten everyone on that list. Cyril Gane has some winning to do, but those guys are aging out. But those guys who are aging are still knocking down all the up-and-coming talent. And so they feel like they have to rush their young super prospect, just like they did with, Chris Dawkins, putting him up against Derek Lewis, because they wanted to rush him up there because they thought he could be good. Aspinall, they're doing the same thing, and it's not going to work. Volkov, I think, is too much. He's very tricky because he's unlike any heavyweight that's out there right now. He's very tough to emulate. Aspinall's never fought anyone like him. So I think this is going to be a tough one for him. I don't know if he's ready. If he would have had this fight maybe 3 fights down the line and shown some more improvements, then I would have little to no problem picking Tom Aspinall. But he hasn't shown me enough right now to say that I can say confidently he can pass one of the tougher tests in the entire division.
Word. And your insight on those kind of matchups is always valuable. Me, personally, I'm a believer in Tom Aspinall. I think he's part of the future of heavyweight. I think he's really fast, really talented. He's got so much potential. And I know this is a lot to bite off, a lot to chew. I think that Alexander Volkov is definitely a tough test. I'll be taking Aspinall, but we already knew that. In our last bit of news, Amanda Nunez leaves American Top Team. After her shocking loss to Juliana Pena at UFC 269, Amanda Nunez is setting sail for new shores as she wants to open up an MMA gym of her own. I don't know what to make of this, man. It seems it could be a coincidence of timelines. It could be due to her loss. I don't know. What do we think about this before we wrap up? The consensus greatest female fighter ever is leaving the team that brought her to so much success, leaving her cloaked in glory and gold, and now she's leaving. What do we make of that?
It seems to me like one, that's a scapegoat. If she's blaming them for her loss, no, it's her own bad performance. Like, it was just one of the lowest IQ performances I've seen out of, especially someone who is as highly regarded and how good we know is Amanda Nunez. Good God, that was an awful performance. But I feel like for me, I don't think that she's going to take that immediate rematch because, one, cutting to 135 pounds, I do think contributed to the loss and her retiring out a lot quicker. I think she's getting close to retirement. Because if you think about it, if you're Amanda Nunez, you have nothing else to do. You have nothing else to prove. There's no one out here. Maybe you go back and try to beat Pena one more time, which she can, obviously. But after that, I mean, leaving American Top Team tells me that she wants to focus on something else that's not primarily her training. And I feel like at this point in her career, it would be honestly one of the better career decisions to retire. Because as great as she is terrible for the divisions. Same thing with Valentina Shevchenko, just awful for their divisions because there's no interesting contenders. So I feel like the division can't take any form of new life. And I'm saying that as there's a new champion, but let's be real. Does anyone take her seriously as the best fighter in the division? Don't think so.
It's a solid point. One more thing that just popped up on the top of my head. We both totally forgot about it because it ruined our days today. But before we get out of here, an interesting development for UFC 270. We covered this last episode, but it has developed further. Ilia Topuria was set to fight Movsar Evloev at UFC 270. Evloev pulls out. Topuria calls out a bunch of people on Twitter. He gets Charles Jourdain on 9 days' notice. The day of weigh-ins, Ilia Topuria pulls out of the fight due to weight cut drama, and we now no longer have the Georgian super prospect on UFC 270, and my day is ruined. Zach, you want to wrap it up and sign us off with your remarks on that?
I woke up this morning, saw that, and I have been struggling to care about this event since. It was by far Topuria. I was looking forward to see Topuria more than I was the flyweight title fight.
He's so excited.
The Evloev fight getting canceled is one thing, but Jourdain is a great replacement because yes, he'll lose, but he'll bring a great fight out of Topuria.
I agree.
We're gonna have to wait some time, and it's just unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah. I wish Topuria would have let us know sooner, so the late notice Charles Jourdain could have gotten a late noticer replacement. That would have been pretty cool. But that's all we got for this week. We've been MMA Island. This has been The Current. Thank you so much. See you next week.